Hello everyone, welcome back to Pabbly. In this video we're going to learn how to create contact in Systeme.io from Clinico patient. So I am an owner of a clinic and to maintain the data of all my patients I am using Clinico. So here my objective is that whenever I am going to add a new patient in my Clinico account, automatically a contact should be created in my Systeme.io account. For that, what we are going to do is, we are going to create an automation between Clinico and Systeme.io with the help of Pabbly Connect. Pabbly Connect runs on two concepts, that is trigger and action. In this process, my trigger application is going to be Clinico and my action application is going to be Systeme.io. If you want to learn how to do this automation, then let me take you all to my screen. In this video, we're going to learn how to create Systeme.io contract from Clinico patient. So I am an owner of a clinic and to maintain the data of all my patients, I am using Clinico. So here my objective is that whenever I'm going to add a patient in my Clinico account, automatically a contact should be also created in my Systeme.io account. For that, what we are going to do is, we are going to create an automation between Clinico and Systeme.io with the help of Pabbly Connect. So on the screen you can see the website of Pabbly Connect, that is pabbly.com/connect. After browsing this website, we need to sign in to our Pabbly Connect account. But if you're a new user, you can sign up for free and get 100 free tasks every month. So as I'm an existing user, I'm going to sign in to my Pabbly Connect account. After signing in, you can see the All Pabbly Apps window in front of you, in which you can see the 5 applications of Pabbly, from which we are going to select Pabbly Connect by clicking on Access Now. Then Pabbly Connect's dashboard is going to appear in front of you. In order to start an automation process in Pabbly Connect, we need to create a workflow. For that, we have to click on the top right corner button right over here that says Create Workflow. Then a new dialog box is going to appear in front of you, which is asking for a workflow name. So I'm going to give a name to my workflow as Create Contact in Systeme.io from Clinico patient. So this is the name that I want to give to my workflow. Next, it is asking for us to select a folder. On the left side of my screen, you can see I've created multiple folders in my Pabbly Connect account, from which I'm going to select a specific folder in which I want to save this workflow in. For that, you have to click on this drop down arrow right over here. As we're going to click on this arrow, automatically all the folders that we have created in our Pabbly Connect account is going to appear in front of you, from which I'm going to select Clinico Automations as the folder I want to save this workflow in. After that, we're going to click on Create in order to create a workflow. A workflow is created in the name of Create Contact in Systeme.io from Clinico patient, and there are two windows in front of you. One says Trigger, another says Action. Trigger and Action are the two most important steps of our automation process because our process depends on these two steps. Over here, Trigger says when this happens and Action says do this. That means our action is response towards our trigger. In an automation process, there can be only one trigger step but multiple action steps. Firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our trigger step. For that, we have to click on this arrow right over here. And for the trigger application, we are going to select it as Clinico. So I'm going to select my trigger application as Clinico. And for the trigger event, we are going to select it as New Patient. We have selected our trigger application and they went as Clinico and New Patient because whenever I'm going to add a new patient in my Clinico account, automatically Pabbly Connect should capture the response. After selecting our trigger application and the event, we are going to click on Connect in order to connect Clinico with Pabbly Connect. Then a new dialog box is going to appear in front of you, on which we have to click on Add New Connection. After clicking on Add New Connection, you can see over here it is asking for the API key, password and the shard right over here. For the API key, what we are going to do is we are going to open a Clinico account and we are going to find the detail for the API key. For that, I'm going to open my Clinico account. So this is my Clinico account right over here. And how we're going to find the API key? Follow the steps which I'm going to tell you. From the left side of the screen, we have to click on My Info right over here. After click on My Info, what we have to do is, we have to scroll down. After scrolling down, you can see over here it says you have 3 API keys and over here it says Manage API keys. We're going to click on Manage API keys. After click on Manage API keys, over here it says Add an API key. We're going to click on it. And then it is asking for an API key name. So I'm going to give a name to my API key as, so this is the API key name that I want to give. Then you have to click on Create API key. As you can see over here, it says new API key is right over here, that is demo key. So this is the API key. I'm going to copy this key from here and I'm going to paste the key right over here. So I'm going to paste it. So this is the API key right over here. After API key, it is asking for the password. Over here, you have to mention the password of your account. Next, it is asking for the shard. We have to choose the shard of our Clinico account. So how are we going to find that? For that, we have to look within the URL provided. So how are we going to do that? For that, I'm going to open my Clinico account. And as I've opened my Clinico account, over here in the URL, you can see over here it says AU4. So this is the shard right over here. So for the shard right over here, I'm going to select it as AU4. After entering all the details, I'm going to click on save. As I've done that right now, over here you can see Clinico is connected with Pabbly Connect. And over here it says save and send test request. As soon as we're going to click on save and send test request, automatically the details of the last patient that we have added in our Clinico account is going to be mentioned right over here. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to add a new patient in our Clinico account. So I'm going to open my Clinico account right over here. And to add a patient, we have to click on patients right over here. And then we have to click on add patient. As we have done that, over here it is asking for all these details. Firstly, it is asking for the first name. So for the first name, I'm going to write it as test. Last name as I'm going to write it as demo. Next, it is asking for the preferred first name. I'm going to skip the part. For the date of birth, I'm going to choose a random date of birth. So I'm going to select a date of birth right over here. So I've chosen a random date of birth. Next, it is asking for the sex. Over here, we're going to write it as female. Then next, it is asking for the gender identity. I'm going to skip the part because I didn't require all these fields right over here. Next, it is asking for the phone number right over here. So I'm going to mention in a dummy mobile number. After that, it is asking for the email. So for the email, I'm going to write it as testdemo@pabblytuts.com. Next, it is asking for the address. So I'm going to write in a dummy address right over here. 123 Modern Street. So this is the address right over here. It is asking for the city. So for the city, I'm going to write a city right over here. Next, it is asking for the state. So I'm going to write over here as Madhya Pradesh. So I've written the state. For the city, I've written it as Bhopal. And for the postal code, I'm going to write in a dummy postal code. After that, it is asking for the country. I'm going to select it as India. Next, it is asking for all these details. I'm going to skip the part because I don't require all these fields. After filling all the details right over here that was required, I'm going to click on Save Patient. So as you can see right over here, we have added a new patient in our Clinico account in the name of Test Demo. After adding the new patient, I'm going to go back to the workflow that we have created, and then I'm going to click on Save and Send Test Request. Now, as we have clicked on Save and Send Test Request, over here you can see a new response is captured, and the response that we have captured is a positive response, and now we're going to tally the response. For the first name over here, it says as test. Last name over here, it says as demo. For the email as testdemo@pabblytuts.com. For the date of birth that we have selected as right over here. For the country as India, city as Bhopal. For the address as 123 Modern Street. For the phone number over here, dummy mobile number. So this means that we successfully connected Clinico with Pabbly Connect. But don't worry if you're not getting the response instantly, because right over here you can see it says 8 hours. So this is a pulling time right over here, because Clinico is a pulling based application. That means in every 8 hours, Clinico is going to send the new data to Pabbly Connect. But if you want to make any changes in this pulling duration, then you can contact us on our Pabbly forum. So now, as we have done setting up our trigger step, what we are going to do is we are going to set up our action step. For that, we have to click on this arrow right over here. And for the action application, we are going to select it as systema.io. So I'm going to select my action application as systema.io. And our action event, we're going to select it as create contact. Because we want that whenever we're going to add a new patient in our Clinico account, automatically a contact should be created of that patient in our systema.io account. So that is why we have selected our action application as systema.io and our action event as create contact. After selecting our action application and the event, we're going to click on connect right over here. After clicking on connect, a new window is going to appear in front of you, on which we have to click on add new connection. As you're going to click on add new connection, it is asking for the API key. With the help of this API key, we're going to connect systema.io with Pabbly Connect. So how are we going to find the API key? For that, we have to open our systema.io account. So as you can see, this is my systema.io account. And with the help of this account, we're going to get the API key. How we're going to do that? For that, we click on this profile button right over here, and then we're going to select settings. From the left side of our screen, we're going to select on public API keys. After selecting on public API keys, over here you can see it says create. We are going to click on it. After click on create, we are going to create a public API key. Firstly, we are going to mention the name of the key that we are creating. So I'm going to give a name to my API key as test key. So I've given a name to my API key. Then I'm going to click on save right over here. As you can see over here, it says public API key has been successfully created. So this is the API key. I'm going to copy this key from here and I'm going to paste the key right over here. Then I'm going to click on save right over here. As you can see that we successfully connected Systeme.io with Pabbly Connect. After connecting, it's asking for all these details: email address, first name, last name, phone number, street address, postal code, and all the other details. So now what you're going to do is we're going to fill in all these fields. And how we're going to fill the data? For that, what we're going to do is we are going to map the data. Mapping means inserting data from the previous step. So we're going to insert the data from the previous step of this automation process. And how we're going to do that? For that, you have to click on this field right over here. As soon as you're going to click on this field, you can see over here it says Clinico new patient. So this was the previous step of this automation process. As you can see, it says Clinico new patient. So if you're going to click on this arrow, you can see this was the same response that was captured in our previous step. And with the help of this response, we're going to map the data. Over here, it is asking for the email. So I'm going to map the data for the email right over here. So I'm going to map the data for the email right over here. As I map the data right over here, the data has now become dynamic. That means whenever a new response is going to be captured in our previous step, automatically the data right over here is going to be updated. Next, it is asking for the first name right over here. So I'm going to map the data again. Click right over here and we're going to search for first name right over here. So I'm going to map the data for the first name. Next, it is asking for the last name. We're going to map the data for the last name. So I'm going to map the data for the last name right over here. Next, it is asking for the phone number. So I'm going to map the data for the phone number right over here. So I'm going to map the data for the phone number right over here. Next, it is asking for the street address. So we're going to map the data for the street address right over here. So I'm going to map the data for the street address. It is asking for the postal code. So we're going to map the data for the postal code that we have received in our previous step right over here. Next, it is asking for the city. So we're going to map the city right over here that we have received in our previous step. So I'm going to map the data for the city. Next, it is asking for the state. So for the state, we're going to map the data again. We're going to map the data right over here. Next, it is asking for the country. Over here, it says enter the country code here. That is right over here, example as IN for India. So if I'm going to show you the response that we have received for the country right over here, you can see it says as India. But as we want only the country code, so what we are going to do is we are going to add another action step in this automation workflow by clicking on this plus button right over here. And to have the data for the country code, we are going to select over here as currency as our action application. Currency is an amazing feature by Pabbly that is going to help us to get the country code. For the action event, we are going to select it as get country details by country name. After that, we're going to click on connect right over here. As we have clicked on connect right over here it is asking for the country name. So for the country name right over here, what we are going to do is we are going to map the data of the response that we have received in our previous step. For that, how we're going to map it? We are going to turn on this bracket of map right over here. We're going to erase the existing data and then we're going to map the data of the response of the country that we have received in our previous step. As I map the data, I'm going to click on save and send test request. As you can see that as I've clicked on save and send test request, over here we have received a country code as IN right over here. So this means that we have successfully received the country code right over here. So now what we are going to do is we are going to map the data of the country code that we have received in our previous step. So I'm going to map the data of the code. Next, it is asking for the company name and for the tax number. As they are required fields, I'm going to write over here as none because we have not received a response for all these fields. So where I'm going to write it as none. After filling all the details, we are going to click on save and send test request. As you can see right over here, we have received a response and this is a positive response as you can see right over here. So now I'm going to open my Systeme.io account. I'm going to check whether a new contact is added into my Systeme.io account or not. So now I'm going to open my Systeme.io account. I'm going to refresh the page. After refreshing the page, as you can see right over here, new contact is added. I'm going to open this contact. For the first name, it says as test, last name as demo, email as testdemo@pabblytuts.com. For the country as India, city as Bhopal, street as 123 Modern Street. For the postal code or dummy postal code. For a phone number, dummy mobile number. For the company name, none. Tax name, none. State as Madhya Pradesh. So this means that we successfully created an automation between Clinico and Systeme.io with the help of Pabbly Connect. So now to sum up till now what we have done, I am an owner of a clinic and to maintain the data of all my patients, I am using Clinico. And my objective is that whenever I'm going to add the new data of my patient in my Clinico account, automatically a contact should be created in our Systeme.io account. For that, we have created an automation by using Pabbly Connect, and this is how we create an automation between these two applications. So if you like this video, please do subscribe to our channel, hit on the like button, comment down below if you have any questions or doubts, and please share this video. Not just with these applications, you can create automation with the help of Pabbly Connect between multiple applications. If you have any doubts, you can send us email on support@pabbly.com. If you have any queries, you can ask your queries on forum.pabbly.com. If you have any queries regarding the pricing of Pabbly Connect, then you can check out this link. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, hit on the like button, comment down below if you have any questions and doubts, and please share this video, and thank you for watching.